Hello, I'm Mary Catherine Sevier, and along with Leslie Collum, I am co-president of the League of Women Voters of Murfreesboro and Rutherford County. On behalf of the League, I am pleased to welcome you to this candidate forum sponsored by the League in partnership with the City of Murfreesboro. We appreciate the support from Murfreesboro City Government provided by Alan Bozeman, Director of Communications for the City of Murfreesboro, and his staff. This forum can be viewed on Murfreesboro City TV, located on Comcast Xfinity Channel 3 and 1094, Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV, YouTube, and Facebook, as well as on the City of Murfreesboro's website. We hope the broadcasting and streaming of the forum by the city on so many different platforms will reach the largest possible number of interested voters. The League seeks to conduct our forums in a nonpartisan manner. Key participants, especially the moderator, are never publicly aligned with any particular candidate or political party. The League believes that televised and streamed candidate forums provide an excellent opportunity for voters to become more familiar with the candidates and their positions. If you agree with us, please express your opinion about the value of televised and streamed candidate forums to the individuals seeking your vote. In the upcoming August 4th election, citizens of Murfreesboro will be voting to elect a mayor, city council, and city school board members. Early voting starts July 15th and runs through July 30th. If you are interested in obtaining an absentee ballot for the August 4th election, please go to the Rutherford County Election Commission website. You can find that at election.rutherfordcountytn.gov to learn about that process. We thank you for your attention as you hear these candidates introduce themselves and answer questions about pertinent issues facing the City of Murfreesboro. We hope you will find this forum useful in deciding which candidates you choose to support. Your vote gives you a prime opportunity to influence how government is conducted in the City of Murfreesboro. Thank you for joining us, and remember, your vote counts.
Good evening. My name is Leanne Carmack, and I will serve as the moderator for tonight's mayoral candidate forum. The forum is co-sponsored, as Mary Catherine just said, by the League of Women Voters of Murfreesboro and Rutherford County and the City of Murfreesboro. The League believes that candidate forums provide an excellent way for voters to become more familiar with candidates and their positions. It is my pleasure to welcome all the candidates tonight. We thank you for being here this rainy, soggy evening. And we also welcome our viewers at home. This evening, we will be hearing remarks from candidates for Murfreesboro Mayor, City Council, and City School Board. But before the introductions, I would like to outline our procedure for you all. Each candidate will be asked to introduce himself. You will have 2 minutes to do that. We do have a timer sitting in front of you. If you get off key, she will get you back on track. You will be given 2 minutes to do an introductory statement. Then you will get a series of 6 questions with 2 minutes to answer the last question and 1 minute for each question in between. Okay? Thank all the candidates and for their gracious acceptance of our invitation from the League of Women Voters. We appreciate you participating. Speaking first, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Bennett, and you have 2 minutes for your introduction.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. Murfreesboro is a beacon of prosperity for many inside and outside Tennessee. We have beautiful nature-filled community. We also have great opportunities, great schools, great infrastructure, all of which have contributed to our exponential growth in recent years. But if we are going to continue on our present trajectory as well as maintain our identity as a great place to live and work, we must work together to keep it that way. A leader from my church once shared the story of how he and a group of men and boys were asked to move a grand piano from one side of the church to another. In their initial attempts, the group positioned the stronger men in key positions with the younger boys in a move they thought would prove successful, but the piano wouldn't move. They rearranged themselves and tried again, but with the same result. After some time, an older, wiser brother told everyone to stand close together and lift where they stood. The plan worked perfectly, and they were able to move the piano with success. It is important to note that all the participants, both old and young, strong and not so strong, were needed to successfully complete the task of moving the piano. There were at present many financial and societal obstacles which lie in our path. None of us is equipped to solve them on our own, but neither are the problems for government to solve, for government is ill-equipped to do the most of this lifting. The problems we face are societal and must be addressed by individuals, families, churches, and neighborhoods. Each of us has unique traits and abilities that are required for this task to be successful. But we cannot lift on our own, or even in small groups. We need everyone for this task. In the inaugural address by President John F. Kennedy, he asked not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. On that same note, I ask us to think about not what Murfreesboro can do for us, but what we can do for Murfreesboro. We need to know our neighbors and love them better. We need to learn from each other and learn to trust one another and live together as we stand.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Mr. Lahu, I'll give you 2 minutes for your introduction and opening statement.
Well, I'd like to echo his sentiments. Thank you for letting us be here. This is what democracy is about. My name's Tony Lahu. I am a resident of Murfreesboro, a lifelong resident. I was born here, grew up here, went to school here, went to work here. Spent 35 years working for the Murfreesboro Fire Department. Retired back in August, but I don't really feel like I'm done serving yet. Public service is in my blood. You may hear me say that again before the evening's over, because I do firmly believe that. I had a conversation with my campaign manager a while back, and he wanted to use the word outsider, political outsider, and I was like, not a word I really think fits me. I lived here all my life. And he says, yeah, but not in politics. When it comes to politics, you are the real definition of political outsider. So I've taken it to heart. I don't have the political background that some of the other people around me may have, and I think that is a bonus, not a setback. I will be bringing a fresh perspective to everything I do, everything that I approach with this. The problems this city faces, I want to bring a brand new perspective of it from a view that a lot of people share with me. They don't look this direction. They look back this way. And that's the person I want to be. That's who I want to represent. I don't want to represent some small portion of the city. I want to represent all of it. And I want to see us move into the future in a way that everybody is represented. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mcfarland, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I want to thank the League for allowing us to be here and really tell us what we feel like our future of Murfreesboro is. My name is Shane Mcfarland, and it's been my honor to be your mayor here in Murfreesboro for 8 years. I'm proud of what the city of Murfreesboro has accomplished over those 8 years, and really, it's not a one-man show. It truly takes a team, and I'm proud of what Murfreesboro has become, not only to be a great place to live, to work, but a great place to retire. In the last 8 years, we were named the #1 city in the country for things like household income, low crime rate, low unemployment, and quality of life. We've led the state in pay raises for our employees. We've built 2 new schools and helped maintain a top-rated school system in our state. We put in a new public safety pay plan to pay our police officers and fire and rescue officers for protecting us and keeping us safe. We've kept our tax rate the lowest of any comparable city in the state of Tennessee. In parks and recreation alone, we've had 2 greenway extensions. We've renovated multiple complexes. We built the Miracle Field. We've allocated $8 million to finally get West Park built. We've had numerous infrastructure improvements, road widenings, partnering with our state and our federal government. We've made significant headway in leading the county on the fight against the new landfill at Middle Point and gained ground on being, for the first time, waste independent in our country, or in our county. We've done all this, and we've added over $30 million into our rainy day fund, now topping over $100 million. We live in a blessed community, and I think we all can agree Murfreesboro is one of the absolute best places to live in this state, in this country, and I'm committed to help keeping us moving forward with our team to keep Murfreesboro headed in that direction.
Thank you, Mr. Mcfarland. And now we'll go to our selected questions, and I'm going to start with you, Mr. Lahu. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What will your top priority as Murfreesboro mayor be if you are elected, and how will you achieve that? You have 1 minute.
Thank you. Well, I have several of them. For the city itself, I think the growth rate is ahead of the infrastructure, and I think that's something we have to address. All you got to do is drive down Broad Street during rush hour to realize this is true. And yes, I know that we are expanding our roads and stuff, but I don't think it's keeping up with the demand that we have. Another thing that I want to see happen is we may have increased the wages for city employees, but we're still hemorrhaging them. And I know for a fact that there's more than 30 firefighters that are fixing to take the test for Nashville, and most of them will probably leave. That's a 30-year fire department. I want to see these things change. And I think that a lot of people in this town that lived here for these many years can't afford to buy a house here anymore. And these are things that we need to see changed. And I will work to make those better.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Mcfarland. What will your top priority as mayor be if you are reelected, and how will you achieve that goal?
You know, I've learned a lot over 8 years. I like to think I'm a better mayor than I was 8 years ago. I'm a better mayor than I was 4 years ago. And what I've learned is you just can't prioritize on one thing. You know, we're working on solid waste independence. We're just, in the last 2 years, we've spent $100 million on road infrastructure. We have increased our pay. Just in March of this year, we increased our pay 7% on a one-time COLA increase, and we're looking at doing another 4% this year. So I think really what we have to do, one, collaboration, continue to work with our community partners. Mr. Lahu's got a great point on Broad Street, but Broad Street's a state road. That's not a road that the city could work on even if we wanted to by ourselves. So I think we have to collaborate with our state partners, our federal partners, and I'm committed to being able to work on the infrastructure needs we have and our parks and recreation and employee needs to make sure that we keep moving in the right direction.
Great. Thank you. Same question, Mr. Bennett. What will your top priority as Murfreesboro mayor be if you are elected, and how will you achieve it?
I want to echo the sentiments of the gentleman next to me. We have great infrastructure in Murfreesboro. As Mayor Mcfarland has mentioned, we have great schools, it's a great place to live. My family and I came here 4 years ago, and we love it here. This is a great place to live. But the things we're facing in the future are not going to be helped by the infrastructure in the community. We're facing things that might come down to finances and growth, and we don't have the things in place currently to handle those things. One of the reasons why I'm running is to bring voice to these issues. We need more human infrastructure, not the type where you, as a politician, throw money at something and try to make it go away. But we need people in our community to come together better, to understand each other better, to talk, to listen, and to love one another. That seems like a not very good political stance to be, but that's what we need the most at this time.
Thank you. Question number 2, we're going to start with you, Mr. Mcfarland. And I'm glad you all talked about it in the previous question. Great segue. What do you think the city government's role should be in providing public transportation?
You know, public transportation over the last many years, I was one of the council members who actually put Rover into place. Murfreesboro is unique because we're not like a typical larger city where you have a grid system for public transportation. And what we've done, we've realized that the smaller buses work better, a point of stop where you don't have specific points, but you can add points. Murfreesboro is more of a hub and spoke. And so I think one of the things that the council has worked on tremendously, we're still waiting on buses from December that were supposed to be new buses that were supposed to be delivered. But I think with our public transportation system, we have to be nimble. We have to be able to be ability to make changes, and most of all, we have to be able to get people to where they can work. And that's something I think we're going to continue to stay focused on.
Thank you. Same question to you, Mr. Bennett. What do you think the city government's role should be in providing public transportation?
Public transportation is an important thing, but the city's role in that should be minimal. There's lots of other ways that people can get around, and lots of things in the private sector are going that route, and the city should, amplify those possibilities, amplify ride sharing. Both those are for the general population, for those that have medical needs, for those that have qualified other services. there's already things in the private sector that take care of public transportation pretty well, and our goal should not be to focus too heavily on that, but to amplify those things that already exist and focus our attention elsewhere.
Thank you. Mr. Lahu, government's role in providing public transportation.
I think the government should have an expanded role in public transportation. And as Mr. Mcfarland said a minute ago, Broad Street is a state-funded road. Is that the right road? But yeah. But it's still Murfreesboro citizens driving on it. And if we could incorporate a system that included more public transportation, I like the Rover system, but when you get right down to it, it's not all that user-friendly. Not that you can't use it, but if the average person goes out to his car, he's going to get in his car and drive that 4 or 5 blocks he needs to instead of waiting on a Rover. I would like to see it expanded, maybe make it a 24-hour thing. I would like to see a rail system or a monorail system between here and Nashville. I think that would be a huge benefit to us. I don't think there's any reason why we shouldn't delve more into this, but we need to make it more user-friendly. A lot of the people in this town don't even know we have a transit system, and it's a good one. It's fun, but they should be bigger, and there should be more of it, and we should be able to get on it just about any time we want to with very little effort.
Thank you. Question number 3 is we're gonna start with you, Mr. Bennett. These are perfect segues. How should the city of Murfreesboro manage its solid waste needs in the community?
As far as solid waste needs, we're growing very exponentially. We're growing very fast, and at that point, it's going to become a problem really soon, really fast. One of the things we can do is to, and I'm not sure that what the best thing to do in order, but we need to definitely talk to and have a conversation with the public, where to have, if there's a need for a second landfill coming up. But most importantly, what the public can do is think about how they can recycle more. Murfreesboro has a great, amazing recycling program, both inside the city and in the county, and I don't think enough people take advantage of that. And that alone would decrease the solid waste. Maximizing that would decrease the solid waste much more than building a second landfill or having that conversation. And so that's probably what we need to do first, is probably have that conversation with people and amplify that and advertise that more, and then we can talk about what to do next with solid waste.
Thank you. Mr. Lahu, how would you manage solid waste needs of Murfreesboro?
This is a simple problem with complex answers. It's always going to be cheaper just to bury it, but what does that put us 100 years from now? What are your grandkids going to be drinking? If you want to go swim in Stones River on a Saturday afternoon, are you going to have to worry about whether the water's polluted or not? I don't know that we can predict this with what we got right now, so it obviously has to change, and it starts with cooperation. There's a lot of bickering between the city and the county over who's going to control the narrative of this, and I think that doesn't serve anybody's interest. It certainly doesn't serve the citizens of Rutherford County or Murfreesboro. I think that we need to look at the answers. I was told about Sevierville, who has an excellent program, and I was told several people going up there and looked at it, but why not copy them? I mean, imitation is the best sense of flattery. We just need to find the answers together. So cooperation on this to solve a simple problem is going to take several different ways. Recycling, some form of mitigating the trash so that it's non-toxic. All these things can work together.
Thank you. Same thing, Mr. Mcfarland, solid waste needs of the community.
I would argue the one service that our residents see every single week is our solid waste and our pickup. We pick up almost 48,000 households a week. It's a very, very well-run business. Respectfully, I would disagree with Mr. Lahu. I don't think we've been bickering with the county. I think we're doing exactly what the voters of Murfreesboro expect us to do, and that's to lead. And I think if you look at what our staff members, if you look at what the city council has done, we've put the ability to say we know the direction that we need to go, and we're looking at all those directions. As a matter of fact, met with Waste Management this morning on coming up with maybe a different alternative. But right's right and wrong's wrong. I don't think anyone who studies and researches what's happening out at Middle Point can agree that it is what's happening out there is correct. So all I can say, sometimes you have to fight, sometimes you have to say what's right and what's wrong. And I think as mayor, that's my example to set the lead, to say, here's where we're going to go in the future, and that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you. Question number 4, we're going to start with Mr. Lahu, and these are questions I've just got from people in my community. And one of the things they're really concerned about is all the urban sprawl and the apartment growth, how would you slow down approval or speed up approval? What's your position on apartments and urban sprawl?
Obviously, if someone's following the legal processes, I don't want to stop anybody from building. But I do think that it's a good idea to move our population density away from what I can, not a minute, but transient living, as in living in apartment complexes, to permanent residents that are going to be living here long term. And I think you do that by building affordable housing. I mean, if you think about it, they say we got 6 families a day, or 6 people a day, excuse me, moving into Murfreesboro. Well, if they're all staying in apartments, it's not long before you got 6 people moving back out of Murfreesboro. If they buy a house, they'll stay here, be part of the tax base. And that is going to improve your economy years down the road, not just right now. So I would like to see it moved more from apartment complexes to affordable housing.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Mcfarland. Slow down. Your opinion on apartment building.
I think if you look at the track record of the council and some of the decisions that we made specifically over the last 4 years, we lessened our sewer capacity to be able to say that only 9 units per acre could be built for an apartment. And if you really look, besides a few areas in our community, the Gateway and some dense areas, you're not really seeing apartments built on areas that haven't already been zoned. You know, completely turning the faucet on something is almost like they say turning the Titanic. It takes a while to do that. And we've been really committed to home ownership. We've been committed to affordable housing in Murfreesboro is really a townhome now. And so I think part of that is making sure, I think it's easy for us to look at what has happened in the past, and I would say it's been a mistake to approve some of the garden-style apartments that we have on the periphery, and that's why the city is really not going out to annex areas outside of really where our urban growth boundary is, because we realize how hard it is to provide services in those areas.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Bennett, about apartment construction in Murfreesboro.
So this is the simple question. The simple question is, should we build apartment complexes? The real question is, how do we get enough housing for people who want to come here? This is a great place to live. This is an amazing place to live. And how do you provide housing for people who want to come here and live here and be a part of the community? It can't just be apartment complexes, because as Mr. Lahu points out, those are transient. People want to move in, move out. But housing right now is super expensive. It's almost unaffordable. And for people who want to come and live here. So how do you balance that? There's got to be a little bit of both. You've got to have some apartment complexes. You've got to have some affordable housing. You've got to have some older neighborhoods and stuff, because this is one of the greatest places to live, not only in the Tennessee, but in the country. And so people are going to come here, naturally going to come here and live here. We got to be prepared for that, and be not just infrastructure, but also as a welcoming community to bring them in here and help them to be part of our fold here.
Thank you. Okay, we're going on question 5. This is prior to our last question, which will be number 6. Mr. Mcfarland, what specific work have you done or would you do to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in Murfreesboro?
I think, part of being mayor is setting an example. So I would look back going through the pandemic. There's no politics in picking trash up and providing police service, fire service, providing education, but being able to sit down and have the discussions like I had right where you're sitting with Vincent Windrow, and being able to have the discussion. I think we had 35 or 40,000 people who watched those videos, to be able to say, hey, I don't understand, help me understand. And that's really where I think as a community, we are a diverse community. Going back to 2018 when we had the White Lives Rally that came into town, I think setting the example to say this is not who we are as a community. And now, because of the actions that we took in 2018, Murfreesboro is now the model of how to handle situations like that in the country. And I would propose that we continue listening and working together to be able to make that happen.
Thank you. Mr. Bennett, diversity, equity, and inclusion in Murfreesboro. What would be your path?
This is a tricky question, because in some ways it puts the cart before the horse. It's more important to recognize the things we share in common before we think about what diverse things we have. People naturally come together based on commonalities. We all have a common heritage. We're all either children of God if you are a religious person, or if you're a secular person, we all have the same ancestor. But we're all brothers and sisters no matter what. And as we focus on our commonalities, then we're in a position to appreciate the differences we have. I teach math at high school for a living, and I have students from all different backgrounds. And every day I teach them math the same way. Doesn't matter where they come from, who they are, what they look like. And I appreciate they're all here in the same classroom to learn something, and I appreciate the things they have, and I learn about them and the things they bring to the table and their differences. But it's best to focus on commonalities, and then you're in a position to learn from each other and from our differences.
Thank you. Mr. Lahu, same question. What have you done or will you do to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in Murfreesboro?
Well, like you said, that's a two-part question. And I thought about this a long time, and I was thinking to myself, what have I done so far to bring diversity to this community? And then I started thinking about what I spent my life doing as a firefighter. I never answered a call where I had any question in my mind about the quality of the person or the religious or preferences of the person that I went to serve. I worked at one of the busiest stations in town, and while I was there, whatever call we answered, everybody got treated the same. Everybody got treated with the same respect, and I intend to continue to do that. To bring the diversity to this community, it's very simple. You open your doors and you listen. Now, I ain't saying anybody else doesn't have an open door policy, but I will go into the communities. I will ask them to come see me. I like the idea of townhouse forums. I like these ideas, and I like to see these things come forth. And honestly, I think there's a good need for it.
Thank you so much. And as a reminder, this is our sixth and final question. You'll have 2 minutes to answer the question, but you should include your closing remarks in that 2 minutes. So I'm going to start with you, Mr. Bennett. Why are you running for mayor?
It's a difficult question because I teach math for a living. I'm out of my depth in some ways in a political office. My wife sometimes thinks that I'm doing this as a diversion or as a odd thing to do, and I don't know sometimes why I'm doing this. But I believe strongly there are things in our future that are going to be hard challenges to face, and I believe I've got some ideas that will help us meet those challenges. The current city administration has done a great job of getting Murfreesboro to a present point in time. Our infrastructure is thriving, sometimes too much so because we're growing so fast, but we're a great place to live. But in this push to have great physical infrastructure, we've neglected our human infrastructure. Politicians have a knee-jerk tendency sometimes to solve problems with money. That is not what I'm proposing here. I believe strongly that we need to think about our neighbors, think about those around us. If the inflation rates continue to rise in gas and food, there's going to be times where our neighbors might not have enough to eat. That's going to require us, as neighbors, as people of this community, to step up. Government is ill-equipped to solve all the problems we might face. But people who love each other, who care for one another, who treat each other as neighbors, who can see the humanity in all of us, that's what we need as a community. And I'm willing to encourage us to do that. Reach out to local churches, reach out to the infrastructure already in place to help meet those needs. And as a city council and as a mayor, to amplify those resources and help those people who might be in need in the coming future. Because I believe there are tough times ahead, but we can weather the storm and get through it and be successful and continue to create a great place to live in Murfreesboro.
Thank you so much. Mr. Lahu, why are you running for Murfreesboro mayor?
I'd like to echo something he said. There's been a few mornings I've woke up and asked myself, why am I doing this? And the answer is very simple. For me, it's because public service is in my blood. My father was a police officer. My grandfather served in World War II, flew a glider behind enemy lines. It's what we've been raised to do, and I want to continue doing it. It's just that simple. I've got a platform. I want to see taxes come down. They went up 35.6% last year. They're coming down some this year, but I think that was too much at one time. It's just that simple. I want to see much better conditions for our city employees. We need competitive wages. Competitive with Nashville, they say we can't do that. Well, we did it for the first 25 years I was a firefighter. We can do it again. We need to stop hemorrhaging employees. The fire department is my frame of reference. That's what I spent my life doing, so that's the way I see things. And I can tell you from that standpoint that we need to improve these things. You need to bring the pension back and give raises to retirees on a regular basis, not just occasionally. These people have to live and eat too. We need affordable housing in this town. I think I said at the council meeting not long ago and heard that the average price of a house inside the city of Murfreesboro is over $600,000. Well, that means most people that live and work in this town can't afford to live here anymore. I spent a career doing this, and I couldn't buy a house for $600,000 right now. So that means everybody coming here is from someplace else. What about the people that live here? What happened to them? That's a voice that's not being heard. That's just going away. Well, I want to speak out for them because I want the people here to be able to stay here. And as on my platform, I'd like to see a full-time mayor's position. I mean, we know the question didn't come up, but I think the time has come for that. And these are things I'm planning on working toward. These are the things I want to see come to this city, and I'd like to do it as your next mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Mcfarland, why are you doing this again?
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. There's not been one day that I've woke up as mayor of Murfreesboro that I've regretted it. I work with an amazing team here in the city. Councilman Martin has served with us for 4 years. I think Ronnie will agree taxes didn't go up 35% last year. We have a great team here, and we have a great fire department, but it's not just the fire department. We have a great police department. We have a great parks and recreation department. We've got so many people in this city that provide the quality of life, and it's too often that as a politician, we take too much credit and we probably get too much blame. But part of being a leader is to be slow to take credit and quick to take blame. And I think if you look at what's happened over really the last 4 years, you know, we've gone through a pandemic where our community weathered it amazingly. You know, as a community, we came together, and I learned during that process that there's so many things that we don't have control over. And as a community, one of the things that we do have control over is the quality of life that we have here in the city. Politicians, too often we make promise after promise, and so here's the only thing I'm going to promise you. I'll work hard every day to make Murfreesboro a place that makes you proud. I'll be responsive to our residents. I'll make sure that we return emails, return phone calls, and I'm not afraid to tackle the tough issues. And more importantly, just like the council that we have, the mayor's answer is not always the best answer. You can't be afraid to surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, and more importantly, you have to listen. We live in a very complex city, and it's easy to throw buzz lines of we're going to pay more, we're going to do this, we're going to add a pension, but there are answers behind those things that if it were easy, we would have already done that. And so we have to be able to measure those things. We have to be able to be thoughtful, and more importantly, we have to be humble to make the best decisions we can for all of Murfreesboro, and that's what I'm committed to doing.
Thank you so much. That was our final question, and once again, on behalf of the League of Women Voters and the City of Murfreesboro, I want to thank you all for your participation tonight. We certainly appreciate it. We also want to thank the Director of Communications for the City of Murfreesboro, Alan Bozeman, and his staff for their help in presenting the program on Murfreesboro City TV and making it available for later viewing. I also want to encourage all Murfreesboro citizens to vote, please. Early voting begins July 15th and goes through July 30th, and you may vote, again, we're trying to spread this message, at any of the early voting centers. You're not tied by your address anymore. You can go, we have universal voting centers. And on Election Day, that same rule applies. August 4th, you can vote at any of the voting centers in Rutherford County. If you're interested in applying for an absentee ballot, please visit the Rutherford County Election Commission at election.rutherfordcountytennessee, that's tn.gov. Also, don't forget about the League's newest online voter guide, vote411.org. Again, vote411.org is an online voter guide developed by the League to provide information about all the candidates that appeared in this forum and all the other candidates running for Murfreesboro and Rutherford County positions. Please vote this election and help determine who will be Murfreesboro's mayor. I'd like to close with a small round of applause for the candidates from those who are here.